if they can do it in the village, can we do it elsewhere around the city? And I think we'll have some people here today who will be able to speak to that issue. But my basic point, and where I want to jump off now, is to speak to this idea that it really depends on what kind of vision we want to have for our energy system in 30, 50, or even 100 years. The vision that we articulate now will help set a new path and either make it easier for microgrids to be deployed or more challenging. So let's bring in some theory, because that's what I get to do. So I get to draw things like this, which are very, it's hard to look at. It's pretty, I hope you'll agree. But, you know, what is it trying to say? And we can thank a professor at the University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands for this model. I've tried to simplify what he did a bit, but he's essentially saying that the energy system is pretty complex. And there are three basic elements to that system that we really need to understand. First, we've got this overarching landscape, and that's this notion of culture, the economy, globalization, climate conditions. And those are factors that will affect everything else that we do. They affect today, and they will affect the conditions that we are making decisions in tomorrow. Some of the big game changers are fairly obvious. We're seeing it in Japan right now, where a tsunami has basically changed the entire political, cultural, and energy policy landscape. And we may now see a shift away from nuclear power. Are we going to have a tsunami in New York? Maybe not, but we might have the closure of our nuclear power plant 35 miles from here for other reasons. We might have challenging conditions in terms of growing demand, but limits on the amount of natural gas that we have. And that would change the circumstances that we would then be able to consider, the options that we might have to pursue a different type of energy technology. We might see a mayor come in and say, you know what, I want to take over the Con Ed system. There have been efforts in the past to municipalize the system. Hasn't happened. But that's not to say that some dramatic event could not happen that would lead to a system shift in ownership. And that would then, again, change the environment in which we make decisions. So that's the first piece of this very complex energy system. We've obviously got the technology innovation piece, where you have entrepreneurs out there who are saying, I've got the great new widget, I've got the great new energy technology that will revolutionize how we do things in New York City and elsewhere. And they're constantly pushing, trying to get their products into the marketplace. Some succeed, some don't, for reasons that we're all well aware of. But what we've generally got is this messy piece in the middle, which Giels calls the socio-technical system, which is to say, it's the day-in, day-out policy environment. It's cultural beliefs that we tend to adhere to in terms of the availability of power, the price of energy. It relates to the climatic conditions that we find ourselves in right now. These are the conditions that we are making incremental changes within this part of the system. This is the stuff we're all familiar with, and we're generally going to be talking about this morning. This is where incremental advancements are made. And people will be talking about some minor regulatory change that would improve the economic viability of the technology. That's what I'm talking about in this piece of the puzzle. But if you stay in this piece of the system, you're not going to get that transformational change. So let's go to what Giels says about how we might think about this system as it relates to microgrids. Again, if you continue to play only in this part of the system, you're going to get improvements. We're going to get another NYU, maybe downtown Brooklyn, maybe in another part of the city. But we're not going to see it sweeping across 4 boroughs. If we, on the other hand, begin to articulate a very big vision, a dramatic vision, and begin to pursue some of the policy changes or capitalize on some of the opportunities that are going to present themselves over the next 20, 30, and 50 years, then we might be able to participate in some dramatic breakthrough in terms of the direction or the formation of energy technology around the city. So, for instance, if we articulated a vision that said, let's have a dramatic expansion beyond the confines of the Con Ed steam system right now. We have good conditions, characteristics in other parts of the city. Let's capitalize on those conditions and let's create new district energy systems. Microgrid technology might be able to capitalize on that. But how do we get there? This is where we tend to rely on some big overarching political or policy change that comes in. And a great example here is the Danish heat law in the late 1970s, where as a result of the Arab oil embargo and the concerns about the energy security and rapidly rising energy prices in Denmark, the Danish heat law said, we're going to move to a district energy system across the country. And from now on, if you own a building, thou shalt connect to the district energy system. We're going to build the pipes into the street, and you have to hook in. If we had that type of vision, if we had that type of policy measure put into place, we would see change.